Jay, kind of sticking with the NBA, and that was some real good NBA talk. We don't get a lot of that, around here
Yeah,
really
I've been
until
trying to
we
keep up
get
with
close
the
to the playoffs.
NBA.
Yeah. Tell me, league pass is the key. That's the only way, or fantasy basketball. But sticking with the NBA, and we were just talking about Philadelphia, a little bit about Brooklyn, and that is Ben Simmons. One of the games that people have had circled on their schedule was the March 10th game coming up this Thursday against the Philadelphia 76ers, where Brooklyn, Ben Simmons' new team, goes to Brooklyn, and it's come out in the last couple of days that he is unlikely to play in that game. Has had in his rehab and preparation to return to the court, has had a particular back issue that I guess he's been nursing, quote unquote. But one of the things I thought about just out of my own curiosity is whether or not he will be in the arena on the bench for that night, and whether or not he should be in the arena if he's not going to play in that game. So I was curious to find out what you think in the sense of if he's not going to play, should he be on the bench with his team, or should he just stay in Brooklyn, continue to rehab, and then look forward to the next game?
If he's hurt, honestly, it makes no sense for him to be a distraction and be in Philadelphia. Zero sense. Like, what's that going to do for
Mm-hmm.
your mental health? If you've got mental issues that you stated, why put
Mm-hmm.
yourself in that scenario that's going to make you feel worse? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the thing that we're
Mm-hmm.
supposed to be doing better about. Do better about it. Don't put yourself in that scenario where you're going to be stressed out, worn out, dealing with that, because that's basically what you're doing to yourself. You're just putting yourself in a bad situation going back to Philadelphia when you know they don't like you. Your best bet is to stay in Brooklyn, rehab, and just see them in the playoffs if you do see them in the playoffs. That is if you play. I think the big thing with Ben Simmons to me is, okay, he's got this back issue.
Yeah.
I want to know if he's going to play ever. Like, ever. They don't have a timetable for him, and that's a concern to me. I mean, I know that when we talked about this trade, that Philadelphia potentially had, won, or Brooklyn had won or got something positive out the deal. The only positive I get is if he actually is on the court, but he's not playing. So where's the positive? Why should we feel like
Mm-hmm.
this was a good thing? You know what I'm saying? Like, where
Mm-hmm.
in this does this make this a good trade if he's not on the court?
Right. Right. I mean, that's what it all comes down to: him being on the court, and especially him being in the court on the court when they go to the playoffs. Assuming that they are still going to the playoffs, given that Brooklyn is what,
Yeah,
an eighth
about
or a
that.
ninth seed.
About that. They are
Right.
the number 9
So let's.
seed. They are tied with Charlotte
Oh my
and Atlanta
goodness.
roughly at 11 games
Uh
behind
huh.
the Miami Heat, and roughly 6 games
Mm-hmm.
behind the Cavaliers. Well, yeah. Yeah. So Atlanta is 31 and 32, Brooklyn as well as the Hornets are 32 and 33. So they played 2 games more.
Mm-hmm.
They are not I don't I they've lost 4 straight. Kevin's back. Him and Kyrie don't seem to, well, with Joe Harris out, it seems like they just don't have enough firepower to win any games. Like, what are they going to do?
I mean, not without. It's funny to say this, but not without Ben Simmons. He is that key piece just in terms of his on-ball defense and his distribution. But I do like Seth Curry making up for, I think, most of what they would get from Joe Harris, and then Andre Drummond coming over in the trade as well gives them some size. But I really do think Ben Simmons is the key because, again, whether or not this mandate gets lifted, it doesn't look like it's going to get lifted, at least anytime this month, or at least not the aspect of it that would allow Kyrie to
Yeah.
play in the game. I mean, he could come and watch the game on the bench, so that's good. That's one step
Yeah.
closer
That's
to being on the court,
progression.
but he can't actually play. But for me, with Ben Simmons, whether or not he should be in attendance for the game in Philadelphia this Thursday, I agree with you. I don't think that he should be, because all that he would essentially be subjecting himself to is 3 hours of abuse, where he's going to be able to hear everything. And this is the main reason why he shouldn't be there, is because if he were to play in this game, he would be so focused and so distracted on the game and further away from a lot of the things that are going to be said to him, that most of it he would be able to block out. But sitting on the bench, I mean, you can hear a lot. What, one, two, three? rolls back. And the Philadelphia fans, not only are they savage, or as savage as they're going to be on Ben
It's just
Simmons, but
savage. It's just
they're
savage.
but they do research. Yeah, they point out things about your life, about your stats. The fans are smart. They know different ways to dig at you and get you to doubt yourself, which is the last thing that Ben Simmons needs. So there really isn't a win in this unless, and I'm saying this, I kind of held back this piece of news, that part of what I read in an article is that he is playing to be there on the bench is, I guess, what we call in therapy, flooding, where basically whatever it is you're afraid of or that makes you anxious, you surround yourself with it and desensitize yourself to it so you
Mm.
can deal with it that way instead of doing it slowly, step by step. So maybe what Ben Simmons is thinking is that, all right, what I experience on the bench from these Philadelphia fans is the worst it's going to get. Therefore, after that, it's all uphill. So when I come back, especially if it's in the playoffs, if I'm on the court, that will be easier for me to deal with than being on the bench dealing with what I've already dealt with. That would be the only thing I could think of in terms of what would motivate him to physically be there. But don't be surprised, Jay, if he is there and that this is part of the reason why. Maybe just to prove to Philadelphia fans that, hey, I'm not afraid of you. Yeah, I'm not playing this game, but here I am right here. Say whatever you have to say to me. Maybe that's part of it too.
Could be. Well, I don't. You know, that's an interesting take, and I say that
Mm.
because the minute Ben Simmons hits the court, every fan base on the road is going to give it to him.
Ah, that's true. That's true.
So, trying to desensitize yourself in the potentially the worst scenario, may
Mm-hmm.
actually be a smart strategy because
Mm-hmm.
that is the thing you go after him with. That's his Achilles heel. Is just go after his head, which unfortunately fans do, and they will
Mm-hmm.
cross the line because that's just what fans do. Fanatics are infamous for crossing the line. The question is how is Ben Simmons going to be able to handle it? And so, in that take itself, I'm actually curious to what he looks like when they play the Knicks on April 6th in Madison Square Garden. I'm
Ah,
curious
true.
about him down in Miami on March 26th because it's a Saturday and Miami fans will probably actually be at the game on time. Um, as well as even in Atlanta on April 2nd. There's a lot of games that could really test him.
Well, I mean, well, yeah, see, well, here's the thing. He's been on the bench for the majority of their games. Now, if
It's
I'm wrong
not the
about this in the
same.
sense of he only comes to Brooklyn games and
Yeah,
not, yeah, but
it's not the same though.
I
I'm talking
mean,
about
like I
him
said, it's
with the
easier.
ball in his hands
Okay.
and the
Well,
ridiculing starts.
that'll be more about him. That'll be more about him being in his own head as opposed to what the fans are saying. Because a lot of that he's not going to hear. It's a matter
Oh, he's
of
gonna hear it.
Ben, in a sense, Ben versus Ben when he's on the court, on the road with the ball in his hands.
Oh, they
So
hear
that'll
it.
be his biggest
That's the thing
obstacle.
about it. The players
Yeah.
hear it. Most of them just ignore it until you see a Kevin Durant turn to a guy and say, "Shut up and enjoy the
Yeah.
game," or Russell
Yeah.
Westbrook get the refs, get the guys on them. Um, they hear
Mm-hmm.
all of that. They hear everything that's said to them in the course of the game, especially when you get to those levels of disrespect that's going to come at Ben Simmons.
Mm-hmm.
That may make the trying to desensitize yourself at the Philadelphia game a bad idea, especially because sitting there and just taking the abuse ain't gonna
Mm-hmm.
desensitize you once they get to that level. The fans have always been habitual line steppers. They're going to cross the line. Period. I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll
It'll be
see.
interesting.
We'll see what Ben Simmons looks like if he decides to sit on the bench or not, and we will definitely take that to the next spot.
Yep.